So as a parent, you discover tricks and you discover ways of handling the children and overcoming problems, like they fall over and hurt their knee and they're crying when they're little ones. You take their attention off it, or you bandage it and you give them a little bit of love, and you talk about something else and they've forgotten it in 5 minutes. So there are various things that you do as a parent when you're young, and one of them I found is, in that example, was if the child was continuing to cry, was to look at the wound and say, "Oh, take all of the bad energy out," and then you grab hold of the wound, not touching it obviously, and you pull the energy out, and you're pulling it, and you're pulling it, you're pulling it, pulling it. You put it into a big hole in the ground, whoosh, and the child is so intent on what you're doing that it loses concentration on the pain, and its attention goes elsewhere. It's got the pain, but the pain's dropped. It's not so worried. The drama's gone, and it's in a new space, and you can start talking about it doing other things. And the child still may have a little bit of pain, but it lives with it. You obviously do cleaning and what have you, and treating it if it's serious. What I discovered with my second son really surprised me. With my first son, my second son was actually quite difficult as a baby. So he was crying and then drinking, suckling, and then he'd be puking, then he'd start crying again, then he'd suckle and he'd puke. And the first child I slept with in another bedroom. We put 2 mattresses on the floor so he wouldn't fall. And I was on one mattress next to him near the door so I could get up and get out. And he was on the other mattress. And quite often I'd take him into bed and I'd lie him down, and then he would be playing or what have you, and I'd settle him down. And then eventually what I found was that if I started meditating, he would go straight to sleep. And then I'd stop meditating and I'd start thinking about things that had to be done. And I'd see him moving. He was connected to me. He was feeling what I was feeling. We were on separate mattresses. They weren't beside each other. They were on a solid floor. And he was somehow feeling my energy. And when my energy went into a very, very calm space, he was asleep. And when my energy became excited because I was thinking about something I wanted to do or something the next day, he would turn over. So there is a connection which is beyond that which I imagined. And this series of videos that I'm going to do for parents and children is to explore the potential of your child. Because we assume that our children have the potential that we have, but they may actually have much greater potentials. And what I've discovered in my last 20 years of life after terminal cancer is I've discovered I had greater potentials than I realized at the time that I had cancer. And I've seen many other people also have potentials. And these potentials are sometimes there might be a power of healing. Not as well, I wouldn't like to limit it, but not as dramatic as the healing, for instance, that Jesus would do. But if you go to a Reiki master or Shamanic healer or a coherence healer with Dr. Joe Dispenza, they basically channel energy. And I wouldn't have believed this 20 years ago, but I do believe it now. And there's a lot of evidence that it has a big impact. You might doubt this, and that's fine, but I don't think you'd want to limit your child because of your own limited beliefs. You might want to check out, before you do anything, some of the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton and Dr. Joe Dispenza. And if you follow some of that work for a while and you see how many people are following it, and you see how many people are saying that they've had cures, and these are Bruce Lipton was a professor of DNA. These are serious people. They're not just people off the road who have done 5 minutes training. They're people that have really achieved something significant in their lives. And what I'm saying is, I believe our children actually have powers that we sometimes don't see ourselves, because those powers maybe have been judged or dismissed, or in the past have been seen as witchcraft or things like that, when in fact they're actually divine gifts. And if we open to the possibility that our children have divine gifts, we might be surprised. I'm not saying they have, but I think every child has its own beautiful divine gift, its own contribution to the world, and they're very different. But there's one or two divine gifts which maybe your children might have, and particularly the mothers might sense it. They might sense that there's loving power in a child that's quite difficult to manage, for example. And they might be curious about that. And then they might start having some slightly strange experiences like synchronicities or things like this. And if you moved into a spiritual space that I have, for instance, you will see these as divine guides. You'll start believing in the divine, not so much in the words of any of the Gospels or the different writings, because those are open to interpretation by man and by minds. In fact, so many wars have been caused by those interpretations, whereas I really believe now that there is one divine, and that divine, its essence is indescribable and beautiful and loving and compassionate and empowering, and it's hugely abundant. And when we connect with that energy, then our lives change beyond our imagination. And that's what I'd like to help you do with your child, because that's the way in which we help create a sustainable and better world in the future. So I send you my love, and I'm going to have a series of videos with some exercises which you can practice for yourself and practice with your children. And I'd love to hear your response if you have really good results. I'm not allowed to say very much about some of the healing programs I've done, but there have been some results with children that really, really melt my heart. And I can't say more than that. And when you hear the mothers speaking about those changes that they've had in their children, after many, many years of having many very, very difficult problems, when you see that, you hear that, then there's something special there. Anyway, enough of this. Love you very much.